League Battle Bill here with another video, getting some more Season 12 Go Battle League battles. These taking place in the Halloween Cup meta. In today's video, we are featuring one of the best core breakers of this meta, that being Shadow ALOLAN MAROWAK, running moves of Fire Spin as a fast move, charge moves of Bone Club, and Legacy Shadow Bone. I like Shadow ALOLAN MAROWAK a lot in this meta based on the pure fact that it does well against the poison types of the metas and a lot of the ice types like ALOLAN Ninetales and Froslass, which I've been seeing all over the place. We have paired it on a team of ABA Ghost with Sableye in the lead and then Toxapex in the back as the closer. And with this team though, we're not exactly ABA weak to dark types, just based on the pure fact that Sableye is a dark ghost and doesn't do too terribly in those dark matchups. So if you're wondering, if you decide to use this team and you run into a dark lead, you stay in with Sableye, you play out the one shield, try to land the return, see how well the matchup plays out, and then you come in with Toxapex to finish off depending on the circumstances. Jumping immediately into the battles, let's start commentating. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. As always, trying new things on the channel to see what works and what becomes most comfortable for me and what creates the best viewing experience for all of y'all at home. As you'll notice, one of those pesky ice types that I mentioned, we have a Froslass lined up with our Shadow ALOLAN MAROWAK. We are committing the shield to their Shadow Ball because Shadow Ball will one-shot us, so it's ideal that we're not facing this Froslass in a zero shield scenario, and we're going to throw a Bone Club after we've overfarmed quite a bit of energy. They come in with the Nidoqueen. Look, one of those poison types I was talking about, and ALOLAN MAROWAK is going to clean up the back. Will they get to the Earth Power in time? They do just get there, but Toxapex is still alive quite healthily and will be able to get to the brine immediately to win us match number 1 of this collection of battles. So I was able to climb quite a bit right below the expert elo level, and I'm hoping to honestly take this team further and further throughout this week of Halloween Cup Great League battles. Getting to the next match, we have a Sableye on an Umbreon lead, that bad dark lead that I was telling you about. Well, let's show you how we will play our way out of it. We're staying in the Sableye matchup. We're trying to not throw on alignment. We're going immediately for the return because we are not expecting an Umbreon to shield in this circumstance. They decide not to. We do a huge chunk of their health, and based on the zero shield scenario, we're going to be able to outpace them and get to another return before they're able to throw their foul play. We actually CMP them, which is the best case scenario. This will land, also get the Umbreon extremely low. They're getting to another charge where they're going to take out our Sableye. Yes, we do lose lead against a dark type, but Sableye plays it so well that we're going to be able to come into the secondary matchup and get some farm. So we come with our Shadow ALOLAN MAROWAK, and their back line is clearly not prepared for Galvantula in the back behind the Umbreon. They're bringing it into the Shadow ALOLAN MAROWAK. What is that play? They decided to lunge, which was fantastic on their part because it does debuff us because we're going to shield no matter what. Clearly, they're super weak to Shadow ALOLAN MAROWAK here, and we're not going to be able to fire spin down because of the fact that they landed that lunge. So our win con is to throw this Bone Club, get a little bit of lag, of course, get their final shield. Our fire spin sneaks through, but they're going to get to another charge move that we're going to obviously commit the shield to based on the pure fact that they were clearly extremely weak and double weak to Shadow ALOLAN MAROWAK in the back. They come with an Escav. This thing can literally do no damage to our Marowak based on the fact that we were going to fire spin down before they got to a charge move, and that's GG's to that opponent. Getting into the next match, we have Sableye on a Sableye lead. Now, this one's a completely IV dependent matchup. Essentially, you win CMP, you win the match. You lose CMP, you lose the match. It all depends on the IVs of your Sableye that you've made. Now, my IVs are not super amazing. You can see them on the screen right here. We have 2 attack. So I'd be hoping, because it's not like, fully XL'd, that we'd be able to win some CMP ties. But unfortunately, I do not play myself into a great scenario here because I already decided to commit a shield and I lost CMP. This is where I learned. This was literally the match where I learned that I'm gonna throw my foul plays right away, see what they decide to do, and then not commit a shield if they decide to not commit a shield. Luckily, they come in, so I didn't play this exactly how I wanted to play it, and will play it going forward. Luckily, they come with the Trash Wormadam. We're able to match it with our Shadow ALOLAN MAROWAK that's going to fire spin all the way down, but then they come in with their Toxapex. But you might notice something a little bit different about this Toxapex. Typically, this isn't the worst matchup in the world for Shadow ALOLAN MAROWAK because we can resist their fast move damage, but that Toxapex is running Bite, so we don't exactly, resist that fast move damage coming through. So we had to get ourselves the hell out of here, out of that matchup. And then we play the mirror with our own Toxapex, which is not super ideal in this scenario either because they're resisting our fast moves and we're taking neutral from theirs. And honestly, even though Bite does charge up energy way worse than Poison Jab does, because they're applying so much fast move damage compared to our lack of fast move damage, we are not in a good scenario and they're able to farm down. So even though they didn't need to get off a bunch of charge moves, they were able to still leave this situation in a great spot because they were able to bite the heck out of our Toxapex and bite the heck out of our Shadow Alolan Marowak. Might need to do a goddamn Bite Toxapex feature at this point because maybe, you know what, that's the goddamn play because it slaughtered my team comp, and Trash Wormadam is apparently an ALOLAN Marowak counter confirmed because we're not able to get off our second charge move because the confusion sneaks through and that's GG's in that match. Getting to this next matchup, we have Sableye on another Toxapex lead. Our opponent safe swaps into their own Sableye, so we are forced to stay here. The one good thing though that I like a lot about a Sableye lead in this meta is everybody's leading Toxapex, and Sableye plays that matchup really well by resisting all the poison damage coming from Toxapex onto the Sableye, and the neutral brine damage barely does a thing. Now, because of the pure fact that we don't really have a great answer in the back to their own Sableye, we're going to commit both of our shields here, go for the Shadow Claw farm down. Our opponent decided not to shield their Sableye, so we're at the 0-1s, but they didn't exactly have a great lead against our Sableye, so we're waiting to see what their last mon is, and it ends up being an Air Slash Mandibuzz, which would have been essentially a hard counter to our Sableye if we matched their swap and didn't play the scenario like we did, and if they were able to flip switch. We're over farming a bunch here, letting them farm us all the way down because we want to keep alignment. That is our goal here. We do not want this Mandibuzz seeing any part of our ALOLAN Marowak, so we're not going to be able to swap our Toxapex in immediately. We had to let our Sableye go down. They're going to spam a bunch of damage at our Toxapex, but our Toxapex is thick just like everybody else's, and we're going to be able to eat quite a few foul plays. Plus, at least the Sableye was able to do some chip damage by landing the Shadow Claws and the foul play that came after. We essentially almost have it in Sludge Wave range, knowing our opponent was going to recognize that one Sludge Wave could potentially take them out. We knew they were going to try and catch, so we wait and overfarm so that when they swap, we're able to match their swap and not throw our move and let them catch our move on their Toxapex, which our Sludge Wave would have done way less here than on their Mandibuzz. They're going to get to a Brine, and Shadow Alolan Marowak does not mind this matchup, but I do actually make a slight mistake here. I thought I was getting the two moves no matter what, so I went for a Shadow Bone and then a Bone Club, hoping for the debuff, but instead, I fall one Fire Spin short of my Bone Club, and if I would have just went for two Bone Clubs here, I would have won this matchup relatively comfortably. But now, based on the pure fact that their Toxapex can barely do any damage to ours, where we build up to 100 energy, we throw the Sludge Wave, their Mandibuzz comes back in, and because we know we can tank a move, we're still sitting pretty here. We're still going to win this match. Ends up being closer than it needs to be. We'll make sure we correct that mistake going forward in the future. We go for a Sludge Wave here. This will take out the Mandibuzz's remaining health, and the thicker of the two mons proves to be victorious. Getting to this next matchup, we have a positive lead with Sableye on Jellicent, and they're deciding to stay in, which is extremely suspicious. It makes it look like they're ABA weak to our Sableye. They tried to catch a foul play, which would have been a good play if, you know, I threw my moves right away, but obviously that's not the way to go when you're sitting in such a positive circumstance, because you got to expect your opponents to try to get something back from you when they're already at a disadvantage. This matchup was super odd to me. I get the fact that, like, you know, having Dazzling Gleam in your Alolan Ninetales will help for dark types, but when you're already a fairy type and you can deal a bunch of neutral damage with Powder Stones and Weather Ball, I feel like you kind of want to have Psyshock on your Alolan Ninetales just so you can do some chip damage, because there's a bunch of poisons all over this Halloween Cup meta. Maybe the way is to just go Charm, Weather Ball, Psyshock, because once your Powder Snow Alolan Ninetales gets matched up with the Toxapex, it is GG. It literally has nothing it can do, as you saw in this circumstance. After the Jellicent comes in, our Toxapex dealt a bunch of damage. Our Sableye now comes in, has to eat a Shadow Ball, but their last mon is Nidoqueen, and this matchup is essentially going to be GG. I was doing these battles on stream, so I was quite a bit distracted while doing these battles, or is this the matchup? Is this the matchup that maybe I'm mixing up matches? All I know is I think I get myself baited hella hard here for no reason, just because I don't want Earth Power to come out of nowhere. They did build up a bunch of energy to potentially throw an Earth Power, ends up being the Poison Fang, but I wasn't counting here, and I don't think this was enough energy to throw the Earth Power at, so I committed the second shield here, which makes this end up being a mistake, and then they get suspiciously close to getting to another charge move, aka the Earth Power, to take me out, and thankfully we're able to Fire Spin down, and they end up saving that shield for Season 13. We throw a Shadow Ball at the Jellicent, obviously. they don't want to commit their shield there because they know that we either had two moves or be able to fire spin them down. Plus our Sableye was alive in the back. Getting into this next matchup, another Pokemon that is extremely popular in the Halloween Cup meta because it's a great core breaker in itself is Trash Wormadam. It's all over the place because there's a bunch of Froslasses and Toxapexes all over this matchup, and Wormadam plays amazingly in that matchup. But you know what it doesn't play super amazingly against? A Sableye lead. Even though they do land the Bug Buzz there, we get a little bit of lag. We're able to overfarm. They come in with an ALOLAN Grimer. Again, the Dark Poison Save Swap is probably the most uncomfortable matchup for this team of three, but because our opponent committed a shield there, and because we have Fire Spin damage we can deal to their ALOLAN Grimer, and Shadow ALOLAN Marowak has access to Bone Club, we don't mind the circumstance of swapping in later after getting our opponent's shields. We're going to be spamming these Bone Clubs as fast as we possibly can, hoping that we get to another Bone Club before they're able to get to a crunch. Actually, I forgot. No, I changed my mind halfway through playing this. Decided to let them get the charge move off. They don't get the debuff, thankfully, and we commit to the Fire Spin down. Their last Pokemon ends up being a Mud Slap Golurk. We're going for the huge clutch bait, and we get the opponent's last shield, hoping we can get to the Shadow Bone just in time before we get Mud Slap down, and our opponent recognizes the scenario, makes a fantastic play on their end, catching the Shadow Bone on their Trash Wormadam. We then match their Golurk that is still alive and relatively healthy with our Toxapex. It's taking a bunch of super effective Mud Slap damage, but our opponent is running Shadow Punch and Dynamic Punch on their Golurk, and I feel like if you're running Golurk in this meta, even though having Dynamic Punch would be nice for the Dark types, you really just want to confirm the easy dub in that Toxapex matchup, and everything could have changed there if they were running Earth Power instead of Dynamic Punch. Either way, we'll take it. We'll take the GGs. Getting into the next matchup, we have another Dark lead. The Sableye on Drapion matchup, we build up to the return, we throw the foul play. Every Drapion shields in this scenario, especially a Shadow. Honestly, every Drapion double shields in this scenario. The problem is this Drapion's running Aqua Tail, so I end up, I think, double committing. Yes, because I just fall short before they get to another Aqua Tail. I was hoping that they'd be running Crunch Sludge Bomb, because then we could play this a little bit more comfortably. We overfarm quite a bit here, going for the second bait to hopefully get their second shield. They end up calling that one, but because of it, we recognize they need to throw their Aqua Tail right away. They do that. We catch it on our Toxapex, which is essentially a huge waste of energy for them, and then they match our Toxapex with a Air Slash Mandibuzz. This is not a counter trainer, even though you are at the one shield advantage. We're going to be eating quite a bit of aerial aces and not the dark move. Okay, either way, sometimes, you know, you run into the scenario, especially in the 2600s, 2700s, that opponents make some interesting plays. I'm not sure why they wouldn't be throwing the foul play or dark pulse. Either of those would be better considering the circumstances, but we're just going to take advantage of our opponent making the plays that they're making, trying again to continue throwing on good timing, which is why you see me over farm past the charge move. We go for another Sludge Wave. The opponent decides not to shield it. We're able to Poison Jab down their Drapion all the way, and their last Mon ends up being a Wigglytuff. So it doesn't matter if they were throwing the right moves in the Mandibuzz on Toxapex matchup, because we have one of the hardest counters in the game to their Wigglytuff, that being Shadow ALOLAN Marowak, and boom, get the top left, easy GG. Even the Wigglytuff's a normal type and resists the ghost damage. The Fire Spins and Bone Clubs add up mightily. Getting into this next matchup, we have a Sableye on a Toxapex lead here. A lead I see over and over and over again, and it's a very satisfying one to win. You don't have to shield a single thing. You can let the Bryans come through comfortably. The only time you need to shield is if they decide to shield, and then you match theirs. And then 9 times out of 10, really 99 times out of 100 from the experiences I've had, the Toxapexes never shields the return, and then you CMP them when you get to the foul play. And this is IV dependent. Some Toxapexes go down like that one. Some Toxapexes survive with 1 HP. Regardless, this works out nicely for us because we're able to get a bunch of Shadow Claw damage off on their Sableye, and we land a foul play, which is huge. They commit to a Shadow Claw down. We're going to play the reverse matchup of the lead, but we're sitting in a good spot here because our Sableye just put in so much work against theirs. We're going to commit essentially to a Poison Jab all the way down, and then this match will determine and fall on whatever their third Pokemon is. They land a return on us. We commit to the jab down. We're wondering what their third Pokemon is, and boom, they top left. Must have been some form of fairy, but honestly, that still confuses me because even if it was, the fairy could have potentially shielded, taken out our Toxapex, and we could have had a dark type in the back, but we didn't. We had a nice counter for it, and Shadow ALOLAN Marowak, along with the core of Toxapex and Sableye, absolutely popped off in these Halloween Cup Great League battles. On that note, thank you as always for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the battles. Let me know what teams you've been running for success in some Halloween Cup meta battles. That didn't make any sense, but regardless, I appreciate you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Preach!